Hey, what's happening, guys? Thanks for tuning in. And today I want to talk about how to create an effective practice routine in a way that you're actually going to see results on the guitar and be happy with your progress. So I know a lot of guitar players struggle with knowing what to practice and when to practice it. And they probably find themselves in this rut of no matter how hard or how much they practice, they're not seeing the results they desire. So today I kind of want to eliminate that barrier, if you will, and help you actually see some good results in your guitar playing. So no need to grab your guitar. We're not going to do any playing today. We're just going to strictly talk about an effective practice routine, all right? So go ahead and sit back, relax, and let's rock. All right, guys, so to me, there are three main aspects of what it takes to be a good musician. And aspect number one is going to be theory. Aspect number two is going to be technique. And aspect number three is going to be language, vocabulary, transcribing, that sort of thing. So as we create our effective practice routine, these are going to be the three categories we focus on here. Okay, so as guitar players, if we start off with technique, for example, there are a handful of things we could work on, right? We could work on tapping, we could work on string skipping, we could work on sweep picking, we could work on legato, list goes on. If we transition over to the theory side of things, we could work on things like triads and arpeggios or scales and modes, those sorts of things. And if we look at things like transcribing or language, we could do exactly that, which is copying our favorite musicians and learning language and vocabulary and licks and solos and songs by our favorite artists and so on. So that's kind of going to be the process here for how we're going to create our effective practice routine. We're going to focus on these three categories, and you are going to choose which ideas within those categories are the things you want to improve on the most. So now when you work on these things, try not to bite off more than you can chew. Pick one or two things within each of these categories and really, really work on those for weeks or months or however long it takes you to master it. And then you can either get rid of that and add something new, or you could just add another thing into that category, if you will. All right, so I'm going to start off by showing you an example of what my effective practice routine looks like at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and start here with technique. So in my technique realm, my two main focuses are legato and alternate picking. So I'm not going to worry about things like tapping and sweep picking or anything else at the moment. I'm just going to focus on those two things. And I'm not really putting a time limit on how much time I spend on those things every day, if that makes sense. I'm just going to go right into it, and I'm going to work on this legato stuff until it feels right. I'm going to focus on proper mechanics, making sure I'm not tensing, making sure I'm breathing, those sorts of things. And same thing with my alternate picking, make sure my right hand mechanics are working well, and I'm not trying to rush through this at all. I'm trying to just really, really get it right. So I want you to focus on that as well. So pick your two things under your technique category and add those to your practice routine and just work on those over and over again until you get them down. And then once you feel like you kind of got a handle on them, feel free to take one of those things out and add something else in. The next thing I'm focusing on here in my effective practice routine on the theory side of things is currently triads and arpeggios, all right? So again, don't try to add too much stuff in here. You just want to pick your two things that you want to focus on. So if you're trying to really get down diatonic modes, for example, add that to your list, put diatonic modes down. And then say, for example, you want to get your arpeggios that go with those diatonic modes down, go ahead and add that to your theory list as well. But for me, in my list here, I'm working on triads and arpeggios. So do with that what you will. And let's move on to the next one here, which is transcribing or theory or language. So currently I'm working on a couple things here, but again, we don't want to focus too much on that. So my two main focuses, I'm currently transcribing the song Earthing by Intervals. And then my other main focus of my theory or language is going to be writing, songwriting, which is another thing I'm working on here. So go ahead and pick your couple things. I would suggest picking a song or maybe like a lick or a phrase from your favorite artist and try to really get those things under your fingers. Now, the difficult thing that a lot of people find here, depending on the style of music you're playing, is it can be really difficult to try and learn an entire song, especially if it's in the technical or modern guitar world. It's really hard to learn full songs. So just focus on one phrase at a time. Don't feel like you have to learn the whole song in one day. If you want to maybe pick like the first, I don't know, like minute worth of the song, or even if that's too much, just pick the first couple of phrases of the song and just work on that for your entire session of language, if you will. All right. All right. So a couple of key takeaways from this is, number one, don't feel like you have to rush through this or feel like you have to know all this stuff by a deadline. Okay. You're not trying to perfect these things by any means in one day. That's the whole purpose of putting one or two things under each category within your practice routine. You just want to have enough time to actually improve upon these things every day. If you put too many things under one category every day, you're not going to have enough time to actually see any sort of improvement. So you just want to work on these one or two things under each category at a time. And then when you feel like you're improving at it, or you feel like you've got it down, then you can start swapping things out of the list, if that makes sense. All right. So I made a free PDF you guys can download. It's just an effective practice routine worksheet that you can fill out. It's going to have your categories, technique, theory, and language, and a couple bullet points under each of those categories that you can fill in the different things you're going to work on. All right, so you can download that. You're going to find it in the description of this video. And that is all I have for you guys today. All right, so I appreciate you guys tuning in. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that like button, follow, subscribe, all that jazz, and I'll see you guys in the next one.